What it is, what it do. Welcome to the first episode of the Homies Podcast in the year 2023. You feel me? Yeah. And for everybody, man, thank y'all for all the support in 2022. We appreciate that. And we got more hot fire like Dialon for y'all in 2023. And thank God we made it to 2023 without getting canceled, because we be talking about some controversial shit on here. And this episode is no different. And for all the people that have, thank you for subscribing, sharing, doing all that. We appreciate that. And for the people that haven't, go hit that subscribe button real quick one time for your boy. It'll be somewhere right here on the screen. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate that. And also, too, got more merchandise and stuff coming out. I know you see me rocking that. You feel me? You dig? You know what I mean? So this year we got a lot of dope stuff coming, man. And also got the Homies Hotspots coming, too. So y'all stay tuned to that. It's gonna be some hot fire, bro. So today, I got the woman behind the camera, the dopest, the most beautiful, the smart. You feel me? See, I'm getting this all on camera for later when she say I don't say this shit. So I got proof. I got record of this shit now. My girlfriend, and also the person that brings you the visuals for this shit, Syhina Dominguez. What up, baby? How you doing? Hey, I'm blushing and shit. You feel me?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm a homie. I'm one of the homies, so that feels nice. I'm usually, like he said, I'm usually behind the camera, just making sure everything's running smoothly. I edit everything after the fact, so it's kind of cool being on this side. It's a little nerve-wracking, not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, all these lights are kind of bright. Okay, I was like,
shit gets different on this side. I'm telling you,
it's kind of cool, seeing it from being able to see it from all aspects.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on, and I extra appreciate you helping me with this shit, helping me turn this into an actual tangible reality thing. So I appreciate you. I can't tell you enough how much I really enjoy that, and I appreciate working with you.
Yeah. And it's gonna keep growing. It's gonna keep getting better. We're just gonna keep getting better.
Yes.
Yeah. So follow, please subscribe if you haven't.
Right. And thank you. And I'm like, so I gotta ask you, since you've been doing this, because she's been working on this with me for a few months and everything, how have you been liking it so far? Am I an asshole to work with? Is this?
I don't know if I'd use that word. It's just a very particular. Sometimes it'd be like that. Sometimes I'm like, no, but it's something that I wasn't ever really exposed to or really had done before until I met you. Until we kind of sat down and you kind of gave me this opportunity, like, hey, would you like to help me out with this? And I was like, sure, and you have the program, and I kind of sat down and taught it to myself and looked up, everything you can find on YouTube or Google, literally anything that you want to do, you can find it out. So that's kind of what I did. And, with practice, you just get better and better. And so I feel like it's kind of opened me up to a way that I can be artistic too. But also be able to kind of work hard and see the finished product. Like, it's cool, and seeing it go on a platform, where thousands of people could potentially see it. Like, that's really cool, especially because I feel like I support your podcast in the sense of like what you say and you're honest. And I feel like that's something that's kind of hard to find nowadays. People are too scared to be honest sometimes because of repercussions, and we're real sensitive nowadays, and so
scared to get canceled. I don't give a fuck about that. No, because I don't want to compromise any integrity of anything else for a paycheck or that shit, and I will never do that. Just to put that on record as well. And how have you been? Have you been able to tap into your creative side? Because I know before you started this, I remember you were telling me, like, back in high school, you used to fuck with, like, cameras. You used to take pictures.
I was in Yearbook Club.
You feel me? Shout out Yearbook Club.
Shout out Yearbook Club. Shout out Kofa, even though I know he's going to be like,
yeah, we're going to put some suck-ass shit on the screen. But,
no, actually, I wanted to go to Yuma High, but my parents were just like, nah, you ain't going there. So
she know what the real was at.
It's all right, though. It's all right. Shout out Yuma, though. All my peeps that I grew up like elementary, middle school, they all went to Yuma High, so I was like low-key sad when I went to Kofa, but I met some really great people at Kofa, so. And we beat y'all at the Yuma Kofa game my senior year, just saying.
I wasn't at high school.
Yuma,
I wasn't at high school.
For their centennial, so that was just
the year we played on my year. I was there. We beat the shit out of them. Let's just make that clear.
It's all right. I don't remember that year. So I don't remember.
Yo, but how do you like doing like the camera stuff, do you feel like you get to be creative? Do you feel like there's more things that you want to learn, more things that you want to do with it?
Yeah, for sure. There's just, I mean, I feel like with anything like video and photography, like there's so many things you can do right now, right? And I mean, I don't know if any of you guys ever did it, or if you like seeing magazines back in the day, cutting out, you know, pictures of your favorite artists, or even just
you feel me?
This is like the grown-up wall, like the grown-up doing version of that. But yeah, I feel like it's definitely kind of opened me up to being able to do this, and not just in a creative sense, but also like, oh, is this a platform that I could potentially grow in? Is this something that I could see myself doing long term? And I think that this last year working on this has really opened my eyes up to that and being like, yeah, why not? Why couldn't I do that? Why can't I be successful in this? And why can't I, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like we're our own worst enemy. We kind of doubt ourselves, and I for sure have done that. And so I think with this, it's
done that here with this podcast and shit.
Yeah. And I think people can relate. Like, we all kind of doubt ourselves sometimes. We're our own worst critic. But I feel like if you don't take chances, if you don't just do it, if you don't try to learn, like, the reason someone is really good at something is because they've practiced it and they've learned it and they've done the work. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to do with this, like do the work so that I can get better and potentially turn this into a business. So if anyone wants to, you know, collaborate or need some help or need somebody to edit,
holla at her.
Yeah.
Holla at her.
We'll put my link list here somewhere.
Yeah, get an Instagram, get in her DM. Yeah. No weird ass niggas don't be getting in her DM, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But yeah, get in her DM, hit that up for that business, because she for sure, she will definitely give you a dope product, as you see here with the Homies podcast. And
but I appreciate you giving me that opportunity, because I know that's, you know, it's your platform, and I want to make sure, you know, that I always represent it in the best way I can. And you guys too, like, if you have any, like, drop a comment if you guys have any, I don't know, recommendations or maybe things I'd be like, hey, this would be cool. Or even, you know, like I said, you can DM me and say like, hey, you should try this or maybe do that. I always like to learn, like to get help from people. I know I have a lot of friends that are photographers and that are kind of getting into that business. So it's like, yeah, just being able to collab with people or just pick each other's brains is always something that's real cool to do. You know?
For sure.
So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can help with that and help expand that and hope turn you into the biggest photographer, videographer that you want to be, and we can take this podcast to crazy new heights. And I appreciate having a team like that wants to do that and has that drive to do that, so I don't have to micromanage shit and do all that. Like, I like that, man.
You micromanage?
No. So,
no, he doesn't.
Yeah, I do. But I just so it's some shit that's been going on, and of course, in the news and going on with things that, of course, we got to address here at the Homies podcast, man. And one of the first things I've been seeing, because something that's been personally touching me, because being a former athlete, being a former football player, I've been seeing a lot of just athletes, period, just dropping now from heart attacks. You know, we just came out of 2020, man, where, you know, a lot of people suffered a lot of losses, and that shit was hard for people. And I feel like, again, and I don't know if this is something that's attributed to it, but they have was a study that we're going to put here on the screen that showed how many athletes that have died from like 1968 to 2004, and it was around like over 1,000 or so. In the last 2 years or so, we've had around the same amount in that like 40-something year span in the last 2 years.
That's crazy.
And
doesn't seem like a coincidence, you know?
No, it doesn't. And we ain't gonna beat around the bush here at the Homies podcast. We think it's those motherfucking shots. That's 100% what I think it is. One of the reasons why I'm thinking it's the shots is because of.
You think because it's like just the numbers from multiple decades to compared to 2 years, how that's
the only big difference that's happened in the last 2 years. And that's something that we've been hearing, that heart conditions are one of the side effects. What is the mitio? What is it's like a heart condition. It's like mitio.
Oh man. I know it ends with myopathy.
Myopathy, something like that. And that's one of the main side effects that you be hearing from this. And if you're an athlete, you know, your heart is pumping at a fast rate. you're doing, of course, crazy physical activity, and then something like that happens. It's like, and this is happening to very healthy people, by the way. People, these aren't like people that are crazy on drugs and doing. These are some of the top athletes, some people that are in wonderful shape. Even, shout out to DeMar Hamlin. Shout out to him, man. He just got out of the hospital. Shout out to him and his family. Shout out to the Bills, even though, I'm not a Bills fan, but I fuck with your team, man, and how y'all kind of came together for him. You know what I mean? That's the part about sports I also love too, when something happens and they make something bigger than the game of football. And I appreciate that. And as being a former football player, you just appreciate them taking out the time. And also, it's extra close to me because back in high school, I had a heart condition. I still do have a heart condition, but I don't do nearly as much physical activity as I used to do then. And I almost died. I literally almost died on the football field. Shout out to Torrey Palacio and Trevor Mendez, two of the dudes that stayed back while I damn near passed out. Those dudes basically damn near saved my life. So thank y'all forever for that shit. So yeah, when I see shit like this, man, it's just like, it's super alarming. And I don't know why it's happening. Again, that's my guess. I'm not a doctor, everybody. I say that shit all the time. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if this is the case. This could just be a string of bad luck. I don't know. But my gut and my senses tell me, nah, man, these shots are involved with it. And also, that's why I feel like kind of on some fucked up shit, why the NFL kind of jumped down in front of it and is like, yeah, DeMar, yeah, we hope you get better. Like, because they know they got to get out in front of that shit. Because
they're the ones who told everyone, hey, you have to get this shot or else your career's over. So it's like, a lot of these guys, I'm sure, that are, just drafted or just, starting to kind of make some money and providing for their families. And all of a sudden they're just like, well, hey, you have to do this. Or if not, that's all gone. You kind of tell yourself, I'm sure they had to tell themselves, like, okay, as much as I might not agree with this, I have to think about my family. I have to think about my loved ones or whoever, or I have to think about myself. I have to set myself up. But especially if you've dedicated, I'm sure a lot of these guys have dedicated their whole life to it. So it's
you don't make it to a professional. There's very few people that make it to the professional level that just is like those anomalies that were just like, oh, I started playing, when I was a freshman in college and I just was dope. And it's like, yeah, that rarely happens. Most of these people have been doing this shit their whole life. And to compromise that or to make a person make that decision is, thank God, I didn't have to make that decision. And, like, hey, bro, it's either your job, your livelihood or your health. It's like, goddamn, bro. Like, and then when you see people that didn't take it, like Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers didn't take that motherfucker, and he was still able to play. And he didn't get as much scrutiny about it as Kyrie Irving, which, again, that's another subject for another time because we know partly what that is. And with Kyrie Irving, he seems healthy. He's playing. He still doesn't have the shot. Everybody's perfectly fine. And that's another thing that also bothers me is how much they pushed it. Like, if you don't get it, you're going to make everybody sick. And now we don't even talk about this shit. People, have y'all noticed that? Like, it kind of just faded away.
Yeah. I mean, we were having this conversation the other night about saying how when we were kind of in the midst of COVID and having to stay home and everything running out at the store, we couldn't imagine then, just because we had never imagined that in our lifetime. And then when we were dealing with that, we couldn't imagine, like, hey, are things ever going to get back to normal? And I think people were like, probably not, or what version of normal is it going to go back to? But if I'm being honest, I feel like it kind of is. It feels like how it was before that, give or take, if you kind of forget about, the little nuances that happen. But it kind of feels like day-to-day life. People forget. You only really kind of remember when you see people wearing masks. Yes. So
right. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that was a thing. Yeah. Or I walk in stores and they still got the 6 feet between people sign. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that was the thing. Right. And it's like, yeah, it was here and it was just so big and then it was just gone. And yes, it does scare me that all these people, man, like, got these shots. And even personally, like, I've had friends and people in my family that have been having issues, heart issues. I've had people, close to me die that I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, they're perfectly healthy people. Like, what's going on? And the underlying thing all the time is these fucking shots, bro. Yeah. And
not saying that. I think we don't want people to think like, oh, they're just like, oh, anti-vaxxer people and stuff. And it's like, no, like everyone has their own choice. You know, if you did get it, we're not, no hate on you, even if whatever our decision was to not get it. Yeah. And I personally suffered the loss of my father due to COVID, and he wasn't vaccinated. I feel like that's something that people would ask me, and it kind of bothered me at the time because I'm like, why does it matter? You know, whether he was vaccinated or not. Unfortunately, it really just took a toll on his body, and it just couldn't take. But I will say my dad wasn't vaccinated, and like the crazy thing was throughout that whole process is you see someone deteriorate, and you know, and it's so sad. But with my dad, like the last thing, he lasted so long because they said he had such a strong heart. Now imagine if he could have gotten vaccinated. We don't know. He could have gotten vaccinated, and he could have still gotten sick, and it could have still taken the same toll. But if it was the vaccine that's kind of attacking your heart, imagine how much sooner that could have happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, we don't know. Like he said, we're not doctors. We don't know, but it's just certain things I'm like,
we do have common sense, though.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, motherfucker, like, if I keep seeing things happen over and over again, eventually I'm like, is something to this, bro? Right. And again, the way they rolled the shots out, again, we talked about this plenty of times, the way they rolled that shit out, the way they didn't have any information on it, they basically used this as guinea pigs. They used people as guinea pigs. I didn't get the shot, but yes, like, they don't know the long-term effects, and now and then they also made you sign some shit to where if motherfuckers do die or if something happens and they do come out and say, oh yeah, it's from the shots, can't nobody sue, nobody's going to jail. That's not sketchy to nobody.
Super sketch.
Oh, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry if I cut you off. My fault.
Oh no, it's okay. No, but you're right. That is like a super sketch thing, and it's like you can't question it, right? But I was actually going to talk about how it was like a few episodes ago that you recorded when we were talking about Pfizer and how they got sued.
Yeah.
And just like, you know, Pfizer was obviously one of the biggest
it was one of the biggest lawsuits. Yeah, and it was one of the biggest lawsuits in American history, over $1 billion for lying about shit and what's in certain medicines. But these are the people that administer some of the most shots from this company because it was something that happened back in 2008. I feel like it wasn't a big news story. And so it kind of just swept it under the rug. And how many people took the shot from Pfizer knew that prior?
I didn't. I mean, I honestly had never even heard of Pfizer before COVID and the vaccine and all of that. So it's like, you don't, and I'm also sure that they paid a good amount of money to keep that hush hush.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Big Pharma got deep pockets, bro. Yes, you don't think they play news outlets to say, hey, keep this shit off the news? Try to keep this shit off your blogs, keep this shit off social media. Like, yeah, if it's off your social media and it ain't on your regular news, where are you getting this information from? Right. You don't. And yes, these people understand that because they're not dumb, because their business and their livelihood is based off that shit too. And they're playing the game obviously the right way. A fucked up way, but the right way in their yeah. So it's just like, I think that shit's sketch as fuck. I don't trust any of these companies. And a lot of these companies don't have good track records, bro. Like, they get sued all the time for negligence, doing fuck shit. And we're just like, yeah, let me sign up for this shot that we don't know the long-term effects. We don't know what it's going to do. Just because this shit that most of the time, and again, if they tell you, hey, man, be healthy. If you eat right, which, again, that's not just COVID, people. That's fucking 98% of probably most diseases. Hey, if you get proper sunlight, you drink good spring alkaline water. Shout out to Purely Sedona.
We're not sponsored, but if they want to sponsor us,
you know, holla at us. Shit, it's hot out this bitch. We need it. You get proper sunlight, man. You do things that are non-stress. You work on your mental. Like I said, eat good food, healthy, whole food. Bro, that shit will help better than any medicine on earth and natural shit.
Yeah. It's worth the investment. I think that's one thing, unfortunately, in our country, is that what's more easily accessible? What kind of foods? fast food, horrible food that's like not nutritious at all for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the foods that are good for you, that's what's more expensive. Eggs are $6. A dozen eggs, $6. I'm like, dang, babe, I hope you don't like eggs that much. We're gonna limit one egg. I'm gonna cook it. I'm gonna cut it in little pieces.
It's crazy. Niggas on here getting robbed for eggs. I'm sure soon. This shit is wild.
And I feel like that's the thing in our country. You know, the U.S. We make ourselves seem like we're so great and da 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 da. But I mean, I was just telling you, I was just telling him about an article about Finland being the #1 happiest country in the world for 5 years in a row. And they're just, I think none of the things, I mean, I read you the list of the things that they do. Nothing was crazy out of the ordinary. Nothing was like, oh, it's because of where they live that only they can achieve that. No, it's just because our country, we
do you remember anything off the list? Like one of the things?
Yeah, one thing is that they don't like nature is a big part of like their lifestyle. They think it's important to go out into nature. They think it's important to spend time with yourself or with others outside, meditating, getting exercise. So just like you said, all those things are important. A lot of the times we have access to everything on our phone, so we can just sit. I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. I'm sure you guys have done it, where you just sit on your phone and you're scrolling and then you look up at the clock and you're like, it's been an hour. Right. And then you're just like, okay.
Sit on the toilet, get the tingly legs and shit. You're like, damn, let me get out of here before I get paralyzed and shit. Like,
yeah. And it was things like that, like simple things, being just kind of keeping the trust there. They said that 9 times out of 10, if someone loses their wallet, 9 times out of 10, it's going to go back to that person, because people are just honest and they're just like, why am I going to take from my neighbor when he's going to suffer? That means I'm going to suffer. They kind of have that mindset, and it's like the
America
U.S.
does not have that mindset at all.
Nah.
Let me find some shit on the ground and like, this was a blessing. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord. I've definitely found a $20 bill on the ground, and I'm like, look around. You got to do the look around first. You got to be like, no one's watching me. No one's going to judge me. Okay, let me just pick this up. Is it real? Okay,
yeah. Okay, yeah. Hell yeah.
But if there was like a wallet with an ID, then yeah, try to find the person. Don't be a jerk. Don't be.
Yeah. But the motherfuckers there, when they find that shit, they want to hear all that. They're like, nah, bro, I needed this. like his loss, right? So I'm just like that, and that shit is, again, man. We're one of those countries that yell that we're the best, but we ain't the best at the important shit. You know what I mean? The shit that we really care about. Even a lot of countries have been switching to this 4-day work weeks. I don't know if you've been hearing about this shit, switching to these 4-day work weeks. And
sounds amazing.
Japan did it with Microsoft. One of the Microsoft factories in Japan did it. Revenue went up. Morale of the workers went up. So if that continues to keep happening, I could possibly see that rolling out here in America. And it has nothing to do with your health or they care about you guys. No, if they're like, if it helps make us more money, it helps less likely these motherfuckers to kill themselves after work. Awesome. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. They don't give a fuck about your mental health and none of that. But if they can figure out a way to make more money, hey, we're all for it. So I'm just like, that shit would be dope. I'm sure that would even take the stress out of a lot of people. Like going, even today, like, work today, get off, shoot the podcast. This is the best day. This is the best part of my day, because the rest of the day was ass cheeks, just working 8 hours straight, talking to people, doing bullshit that I don't even really like doing. I just do it for the paycheck. This shit right here, I love doing. I do this, obviously, for free. I want to always do it for free, so I don't have to keep coming back to that shit. Please hit me. Y'all hit me up and subscribe and shit so I can stop going to that motherfucker. But yeah, like, our country's just not great at a lot of shit. We're great at sports and, entertainment and music. But
and it's great if you're an entertainer or an athlete, but
most of us aren't.
No, yeah. Like even that statistic that, what was that statistic? Where it was saying about how many like athletes, like high school athletes or athletes in general actually go to play sports in college. Yeah. And it was like a very small number, and I mean you're part of that, and so that kind of surprised you,
and then when it gets from college, it's like 4% or something like that. And then that number from college to the NFL or NBA, that shit's like 1%. Yeah. It's like, bro, you're damn near more likely to hit the fucking lottery, bro, than to make it there. But so it's just like Yeah, man. It's and again, I pray for all the athletes, man, that did take that shot. I hope y'all are, taking care of yourselves, monitoring yourselves,
Yeah.
making sure you're okay. Because, as a former athlete, man, just seeing people drop like that, doing something that they love doing, and going out there with just the most raw intentions of just doing your job, being great, and then something like that unfortunately happens is fucking trash, man. And also for all the trash ass people, Skip Bayless, that fucking said, "Oh, we should just get on with the game," and da da da. Yeah, fuck you, bruh. That's why that show's about to be over, by the way, because Shannon has had enough of your ass, and you already know Shannon is the personality. That's the person that people love on the show. Skip, your ass is old, and also Shannon. If you do need a replacement, ESPN. I know my sports. You feel me? And I will definitely let you talk anytime, Shannon. Yeah, first of all, nigga, you bitch like 450 pounds. I'm gonna be quiet when you talk. You feel me? So it's just like, um, so yeah, man. For all the athletes out there, take care of yourself. Even shit, what was that old lineman? What's the name? Aruche.
Uche Chukwu Nwaneri.
There you go. I was gonna fuck that whole name up, and he's an offensive lineman. That was really pumping. Like, yo, if you don't get the vaccine, you should get put in jail and da da da. And again, not wishing nothing on nobody. I'm just stating what happened. And he just recently passed away in his home. Man was 38 years old. These dudes ain't old. They ain't out. They're former athletes. Yeah, from a heart issue. Yeah. So I'm just like, man, this shit is starting to. A lot of this shit is starting to add up and it's getting scary, man. But again, praying for everybody. Hope everybody stays safe. Hope everybody stay healthy. But we got to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about a little bit more health shit. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back here with the Homies Podcast. And we back. Hope y'all didn't leave. Hope y'all still tuned in here with the Homies Podcast. I got my great girlfriend here, Syhina, and there's also my videographer and photographer. We just talking about a whole bunch of bullshit that's going on right now. That again, I feel like the mainstream media ain't talking a whole lot about. So again, that's why we here to cover these topics. So we're talking about again with these athletes, man, and just dropping and taking care of your physical health, but also mental health. That's something, again, that was big in 2022 that we're going to continue to keep talking about because that shit is not a fad, people. That is some shit that you really need to take serious. And especially, I feel like people in my age group, I'm in my 30s, and I feel like especially a lot of the men that I'm seeing, man, like, it's tough times out here, bro. And having a strong mental game definitely helps. And one of the things that me and Syhina have been doing, that have been helping with the mental game, something I just put her on to, and I wanted to ask her some questions about her experience. So we went to a flotation tank. So that's something that I've been doing for a couple years now. I first found it on Joe Rogan's podcast, actually.
Shout out
Joe Rogan, man. And he says he has one in his house where he does this shit every day. Unfortunately, I can't do it every day. I would love to. But how was it? How did you like it?
Man, I wasn't exactly sure how to feel. I was like a little bit nervous. I think also because you're in a pod and just like claustrophobia. I'm not really a claustrophobic person, but I've never been submerged in water in a pod, and you're basically in it's like a big pod. So I was like a little hesitant, but I was just like, you know what? I feel like this will help a lot. And, we looked up, just the benefits, right? It like helps with stress, depression,
anxiety, helps with any type of injuries, fatigue. If you have jet lag, insomnia, it helps with a laundry list, mental clarity. Yeah. I don't know about you too. Like I slept like it has you sleeping like a rock after.
I do want to add a side note though for all the ladies or anybody who, if you shave don't shave any body part, and don't get your hoo-ha waxed before going. I learned that the hard way. It's salt water that you're sitting in, so everything burns. So I felt like my legs were on fire, like razor burn to the max. And everything else, like I said, I went and got waxed. I don't recommend it. Just letting you know for your own safety. Just FYI. Sorry, I had to throw.
Oh no, and it's good that she said that, because when you're in the flotation tanks, I feel like everything gets heightened, like injuries. If you feel anything, because you're in, again, if people that don't know what flotation tanks are, they're a deprivation tank where they literally
like a remove
deprivation. Yeah, it removes, like, is completely dark, is soundproof, and is set to around like 98 degrees, so it's pretty warm.
So like your body temperature.
Yeah, and you get in. It's only it's like less than a foot of water. It's like 10 inches of water, but it has like 1,000 pounds worth of Epsom salt in it. And the Epsom salt, that's just kind of the cool part, is the Epsom salt. So, if you ever had an ache or pain, for everybody that's ever played sports or not, just soaked your feet or something. Mm-hmm. But basically, you had to do that with your whole body. Yeah. I get in that motherfucker butt naked, and I
went off with you. That's what he said. I was like, should I take my swimsuit? He was like, I get in there naked. I was like, I guess I'll get in there naked too.
Mm-hmm. Just get in there naked, because you're supposed to replicate being in the embryo, like the womb. Yeah. So it's just like, the womb. I'm sorry, not the embryo.
I was like, dang, you can remember all that.
Yeah, the womb. Yeah. So where it was, you're in water. That's the most peaceful. Yeah. And definitely, how did you feel? Like, did you get anxious at all? Did you get like...
To be honest with you, at first, I was real calm. I went into it. I was just like, you know what? I need this. I'm going to try to have the most positive experience that I could possibly have. But I will say, like, when I first started, I got real emotional. Like he said, it's like you're deprived of, like, sound. They give you... like little earplugs, so you put in, so you're like completely kind of submerged, like when you're floating. So your ears are submerged, so you don't
That's
really.
That's like right here, yeah. So.
Yeah, and you turn the lights off, and it's just warm in there, and I feel like you just kind of, that little voice inside your head, I feel like that's all you hear. Or sometimes, I feel like when I first started, I didn't hear anything. I was just like quiet. And I just think that things that maybe were bothering me or that I'd been thinking about or maybe suppressing, I think sometimes we don't realize we suppress certain things. That started coming out, and I started getting emotional. And I was just like, oh man, I was like, I don't, like, in my head, I'm just like, didn't really want to let myself get that way, because I'm like, I don't want this to just be like a sad experience. But no, as it went on for me, I kind of was just like, I was able to get out kind of what I got out, and then I just kind of get this like clarity, and then you get this really like cool sensation. And I'm thinking that maybe everyone would get it, just because I asked you and you said you got it. You almost get this like sunken feeling, like when you're like so relaxed. It kind of reminded me of the movie Get Out, in the sunken place, even though that was bad. Right. But it's like just that was not like that.
I'm not there, people. Don't trip. I'm good.
He's fine. Just no flash photography, okay? No, but it just gives you this really like relaxing sort of feeling, and I feel like anything that maybe you need to work out in your head, it kind of, you have nothing but time. You're in there for an hour, so I feel like you kind of go through the different motions. And then at one point I got so comfortable that I was like, I'm about to fall asleep. I was nervous though, because I was like, I don't want to like roll over or something, right.
Or I was pass out. I'm in the water. I'll be the first nigga to drown in fucking 10 inches of water. It's just like,
How was your, like, you had already, one thing I think we talked about before going is just like, how long is it going to feel? And I think, I will say for me, I think towards the end, I did start getting anxious, because it was warm in there, and it just felt like, I was just like,
kind of clammy.
Yeah, like
your face kind of starts to sweat a little bit. You're just like, but yeah, I which was kind of crazy. I felt the same way. Like the first 2 times I did it, I felt that way. Like the last 10-15 minutes, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm ready to get the fuck out of here. But I'm like, I don't want to get out, because I'm like, I want to do it all the way through so I get the full effect. But I'm like, the last 10-15 minutes, I'm like, bro, I'm ready for this fucking music to come on already, because this shit is feeling kind of sketch. Yeah. But this time, that shit went by. I'm not even bullshitting with you. I thought the lady up front gypped us on time. I was like, I checked my watch and shit. As soon as I got out, I was like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Went right to my phone. I was like, oh, all right, shit. It was a full hour. Yeah. It literally felt like I was in there 15 minutes. I feel like that's how long 15 to 20 minutes is how long it felt, but I was in there an hour. And
did you sleep at all, or did you?
I had to. Because I'm like, there's no way that time went by that fast. I must have just dozed off for 5-10 minutes at a time and not really noticed it. But yeah, and that shit is also a bug out too. Just like being somewhere completely dark. Think about that. When's the last time, like, even if you turn off all the lights in your house, it's like you still got light from outside. Mm-hmm. You might, people that keep the little light on in the kitchen, like, there's some type of light, but it's just like in there is no light. So it almost like, again, it fucks with your brain a little bit because your brain is just like searching for like a sound or a light, something. Give me something. So when you can't and your brain knows that, I feel like that's when you start going inside. Like, okay, let's turn your brain into the playground since we can't fuck with anything. But also, one major thing that I get from this, and I don't know if you felt that way, I felt like that just shows how crazy the world is. It's like these things that help with anxiety, depression, is just from silence. Mm-hmm. If you can get away from your phone, if you can get away from people, get away from your friend, get away from all types of influence and just sit quiet for an hour with no sound, no light, no nothing.
No phone,
like no technology. It is so it's so like stress. Stress relieving. Like, oh my God. Like soon as I got out of the pod and started doing shit, it was like, fuck, I know where these stresses are coming from. Yeah. Like, as soon as I pick my phone up, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta write back these texts. I gotta do this. It's like, when you're in there, it's like, nah, I don't have to do any of that shit. And I could just focus on me. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's cool.
And even if, like, you don't have to go if you don't, it's not just something that would benefit someone that's just like, oh, I'm going through something. And no, you might be like, I'm not really going through anything, but that sounds cool. It's like we said, it's like good for your body. It's just like you sleep like a baby afterwards.
Hell yeah.
And it just like overall helps. And yes, like at first you do feel, if you do have any aches or pains, you do kind of, they're heightened at first, but then they go away. And then once you're out and everything, you feel so much better. You feel like it could be used even for pain relief because it really 100%. Does alleviate that, if any soreness, especially like a lot of people that work from home now, you work from home, like you're sitting a lot of the time, maybe your back hurts, even if you're doing a job where you're up on your feet, your back can still hurt. So not
even thinking about that, as you said that, like I have a torn meniscus and I had Achilles surgery a few years ago, and now that you even say that, like, I wasn't even paying attention to it, but, like, my Achilles, like, how usually, like, all that press, it's like, didn't hurt. And it hasn't hurt since we've been out. Like, I don't have that. I used to have this everyday, like, throbbing type pain. And, like, right now, as I'm moving it around, I'm like, no, I don't have it. And I didn't even feel it when I got out. And it's like, even my knee, like, the first time I got in that motherfucker, my knee, that shit for like the first 10, 15 minutes, I was like, oh my God. It feels like my knee. That's the only thing I could focus on, and my knee just hurt. So I was just like, but now it's just like, it was cool. Like, and like I said, I like it, man. Like, and it's something that you don't have to go to therapy. You don't have to do any of that. Even though, again, I agree with therapy if that works for you, whatever works for you. But that's something that you can. Like,
it's a different form of therapy, I feel like, because it's like last year I was just like, you know what, I'm going to try therapy. I feel like I got to a point in my life where I was like, I feel like I need to try it or give it a chance. Maybe I'm not great at communicating my feelings or, things like that. So I was like, I'm going to try it. And I feel like it did help me. But in the sense, like, it's funny because I feel like some of the things, like conversations Ellis and I would have, I would talk to my therapist and she would say the same thing. And I'm like, sometimes... And not all the time, but sometimes there are people in your corner, there are people around you that can give you certain advice or help you see things a certain way, but sometimes they're too close that you're just like, man, you want that outside perspective, and I think that's kind of how I felt. But with therapy, like, you know, like you've said, it doesn't work if you're not honest with yourself.
Right.
And so I think, like I said, there's different forms of therapy, because maybe you're not wanting to talk to somebody. Maybe that's not something you want to do, or you're not comfortable with, you know. And so the flotation is a different way. But like we said, it doesn't.
That shit forces you.
Yeah.
Like I said, in therapy, you can decide not to talk. You don't want to. In the flotation tank, they're like, you don't have to talk. Just sit here.
Or you can talk and you're just talking to yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
and we'll do the rest.
Right.
And it's just like, it's a good place to start. And like I said, exactly what I told her. I was like, yeah, therapy is good, but if you're not willing to open up, if you're going to be, it's only so much that person can do. You know, I'm sure they know, you know, psychologists, they know techniques, they know different things to open a person up and to ask the right questions to get you down that right path of getting you. But sometimes, again, if you're not open for that, it's not going to work.
And ultimately, therapy, I feel like, is just, the therapists they're not, I think people put so much pressure on them thinking like, they're going to fix my life. No, you're going to fix your own life. Therapists, all they do is give you the tools. Sometimes we don't know what the tools are. Sometimes maybe we don't know how to approach certain things, and they just give you kind of advice. And even then they say like, hey, this is just like advice, and it's up to you what you do with it. So yeah, like that's, I think people need to learn to be honest with themselves, and growth isn't always a great feeling, right? That's why even growing pains, like I'm sure we all felt those growing up. They sucked so bad. You'd be like, why my leg hurt? You know, it's like throbbing like crazy. But that's just part of growing up, right? And I think it's also like mentally, emotionally, we grow, and sometimes it doesn't always feel the best, you know, but that's kind of what makes you stronger, right? That's kind of shows you how resilient you can be, you know, like adversity creates resilience, and you kind of grow from that situation. As like, I'm sure, you know, I know that you have just in your life.
Sure.
I have with certain things in my life. I know you guys have dealt with stuff like that,
sure.
you know, so it's just overall, no matter how you guys do it, take care of your mental health. And I think for me, as a woman, it makes me sad because, like you said, we've seen a lot of men. I feel like men have, throughout time, been told you can't be emotional, you can't kind of show weakness. And I'm not saying, like, be overly emotional either, because I feel like sometimes men think, well, it's like, nah, like, I'm not trying to be this way, or I'm not, you know what I mean? And because we've kind of created that dynamic for them, unfortunately. But isn't it so sad, though, that there's grown men who are successful, who have families, who seem like from the outside to have it all together, right? And then these men all of a sudden kill themselves, and you're like, what happened? I had no idea he was sad. And I'm like, did we really take the time to find out if they were sad, if there was anything going on? How many times do we... I'm sorry, I'm kind of steering off topic.
No.
As a woman, I feel like I just kind of want to share this because it's something that I've learned, and I've kind of, being with you and just seeing how society is, like, as women, we don't give men enough credit sometimes. We expect, women are supposed to be emotional. We're supposed to be sensitive. But we don't apply those same things to men, and we expect them, like, you have to be tough. And it's like, we live in the same world. You know what I mean? The same struggles we go through, men go through, if not more, because we expect men to kind of lead the household, right? To be these providers, but we're like, we don't care how you get there, just get there. And I feel like it's a lot of pressure. If it were like that for me, if you were just like, hey, you have to control everything, as much as I'd be like, yeah, I'm up for it, I'd be like, man, this is kind of hard.
Should it keep you up at night, man? And I appreciate you even saying that, because yes, it is a thing that, you know, I'm sure all men, we feel at some point. I'm talking about the real men that handle their shit, not the nigga that just comes over and knocks a bottom out your ass. I'm talking about the dudes that pay the bills, man. Dudes that was raised right, that you ain't got to clean up after his jaws. Nigga knows how to cook and clean. He actually caters to you. He actually works his ass off and does shit. Those type of motherfuckers. Like, yes, the dudes that literally go out the way and break their back to build a world or a life that y'all can enjoy as well as we can enjoy. And yeah, that shit gets for sure overlooked a lot. And it gets to a point where it's like, oh, you like almost like you're supposed to do that shit. And they're just like, damn, bro, like we want to do it because, yeah, man, we want to do shit for our women. Like, even we see people online talk about like the 50-50 and women like, I ain't doing that. Trust me, ladies, trust me. There is no man out there that if he could wouldn't pay for everything. We like doing that shit. It's a sense of power for us. We like fucking. Like,
it makes you feel
it makes us feel good. Yeah, it makes us feel good. Like, hell yeah, man. Get what you want, babe. Fuck yeah. What man wouldn't want to do that? But again, that's a very, very small list of men are able to do that shit. And again, that doesn't mean we don't love you. It don't mean motherfuckers aren't trying. That's just the reality of shit.
And I think we also have to, like, understand too with men, and like we're not saying that women don't also run households and all that. We don't want anybody, like any single moms out there watching, or anybody who is maybe had to be the parent in both situations. Like, kudos to you guys, and we have like so much respect for you, but we're just talking about like the male perspective right now, just for this conversation. But I think as men, like, men know in a way, our society has made them feel like you are going to work for most of your life because you're going to provide, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I feel like, an example, my father, my dad worked all his life. You know, him and my mom got pregnant with me at a young age, and my dad had to work his way up and provide. And his first job while my mom was pregnant was working at Circle K, working at night shift at Circle K. But it's like, hey, that paid the bills. That's what he could do. And he ended up, you know, having his career. And unfortunately, like, he passed away last year, but he passed away 3 days after what would have been his retirement. And it's just like that, I think, broke me the most, being like, my dad worked so hard for us to get us a house, to have food on the table, clothes on our back, and he didn't get to enjoy the fruits of his labor. And I like to think, though, I'm like, you know what, now he's like not here, he's not suffering anymore, he doesn't have to deal with the ins and outs of this life, because it's like, yeah, sometimes this life is really difficult and it's really hard, but
I'm sure he would have wanted to enjoy his retirement and
100%.
be able to grill and just chill at the crib.
100%.
Like, so that shit is, again, man, that's super fucking unfortunate, man. And
yeah, it's something, I mean, just like with anybody that's experienced a death, it's something that it never goes away. You just deal with it. You just have to learn to move forward in the sense of, I know my dad wouldn't want me to just feel sad all the time and not progress in my life. And so that's what this mindset, like this new year, right? I'm really trying to have that positive mindset, because I've tried to take care of my mental health, and I appreciate you for all the help and all the conversations and all the tears and all the hugs and all the meals and everything that you've, helped me with and provided, and just been there for me and been a friend first and foremost. So, sorry, I gotta plug my man. I appreciate you.
Getting emotional here, man. The motherfucking homies podcast today, man.
But long story, I'm sorry. I just, as a man, like, I want you to know that I'm going to try to be more aware of that, and just like how your mental health is. And ladies, I encourage you to do the same. If you have somebody in your life, even if you have a brother, a father, a friend, just check in on them. Just ask, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, what's going on? Sometimes it's something so simple, right? And we do that a lot for women, but it's like, we need to do it equally for men. Men go through things too, and half the time they don't really, they have their friends to talk with, but sometimes they don't know that they can, talk about certain things, because they don't want to seem vulnerable, because a man is supposed to be, man.
Yeah, man.
And how do you feel, like, I guess, in the black and brown community with men, I feel like it's more so that way. Don't you think?
For sure. Don't talk about no bitch shit, bro. Chin up, nigga. Do that shit. Chin up, chest out. We don't got time for that shit, but sometimes you do got to take time for that shit, bro. It don't make you soft. It don't make you no pissy. It's just like, no, bro. Life, if you out here really doing shit, now if you a nigga that live with your mama, or you got your girl paying for your shit, you don't understand what the fuck I'm talking about. Real men, talking to the real men right now. Yeah, nigga, I know. And for all the real men out there handling your shit, there's no here at the Homies Podcast, man. We love y'all, bro, for taking care of your fucking business, as well as taking care of your girl. That's a part of your job as well, too, man. So just like she said, appreciate them, appreciate your girl, too, bro. Because if your girl is doing those things, and she is checking up on your mental, she is keeping that house right, she is throwing that ass the way you like, she is sucking that monkey, she cooking that chicken the way you want, nigga, you need to make sure you remind her that you love her and do those little things then to remind her that she is special, man, because that shit goes a long way. So just some relationship advice here from the Homies
no
podcast.
Charge, little therapy session here.
Yeah, you feel me? And before we get up out of here, there's one more thing we wanted to talk about, the switching gears from relationships to that. Bruh, have you been seeing El Chapo's son going wild? I don't know if y'all been checking up on the news. Me and her last year took a little trip to Mexico. And I was always, I ain't never really took a whole lot of trips to Mexico. But, I lived on like a border town and shit when I lived in Yuma. And I never went deep into Mexico. We going Alcadón, San Luis. We keeping it right here where I can see the border and shit. Yeah. And just hearing about what's going on now. So if y'all not aware, the Chapo's son, what's his name?
Ovidio Guzman Lopez.
Yeah. The military in Mexico are like, yo, we gonna come get your ass. We gonna arrest you. 29 motherfuckers was killed in just the arrest of trying to arrest him and bring him in.
Yeah, the cartel's just going crazy.
They out there shooting,
putting up a fight.
They shooting up shit. They blowing up shit. They kidnapping doctors and nurses, so you can't even go to the fucking hospital once we shoot and stab the shit out of you. They were shooting at a fucking plane, civilian airplane. Yeah. Imagine, nigga, you coming in, you like, man, I'm about to go to Mexico, nigga. We about to get tequila shots. Yeah. And then you boom, 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 boom. Motherfuckers start busting at your goddamn plane. Like, that shit is scary. And for all the people, I got homies that closer, got family in Mexico. Man, I hope, call them, check up on them, because shit down there is wild right now. At the cartel, we ain't got no beef with y'all, just FYI. So if one of y'all just so happens to see the podcast, we are very close to y'all. So we ain't got no issues or problems. We just saying, damn, bro, that's wild. And for the civilians, like, hey, man, y'all, be careful and stay safe, man, because they don't give a fuck about none of that. And it also makes you kind of nervous too. Like, who really runs shit down there?
I pulled up this article real quick. I wanted to share this. So he actually got arrested before in 2019, but they had to let him go because they were killing, like, the military that had arrested him. They were killing them left and right, threatening their families, basically saying, like, hey, we know where your families live, and if you don't let me go, well, he wasn't saying that, but basically the cartel was like, if you don't let him go, we're going to shoot everyone up. We're going to bomb everybody. And the president of Mexico was like, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, let him go because there's going to be more casualties if we keep him locked up. And so that, yeah, you're right. Like, who's really in charge? And that's scary, right? Like,
hell yeah.
And what is that? That lets them know they have all the power and the authority.
Hell yeah.
So,
hell yeah, I got money and I got unlimited shit, and that's kind of like on some prison shit. Like, my dad used to work at a prison when he got out of the military, and he used to say it all the time, like, we got the badges and all that shit, but we don't run that fucking prison, bro. Yeah. And they make it very clear, like, just like, this is my home. You get to go home. This is where I live 24 hours. You're only here for a shift. Yeah. And my dad was like, that's one of the reasons why he got about that motherfucker.
Yeah.
He was
Same thing with my dad. My dad was
correctional officer. Yeah, that shit is.
But he was just like, nah.
Yeah, niggas get your ass stabbed up in there real quick, bro. And it's like, and you got dudes in there that are willing to go to that max for the shit. It's just like, even the military, those dudes got rules of engagement and certain things they can do. Cartel,
do they?
I was like, they say they're supposed to, but the cartel don't. No, yeah,
he put me on this movie called Sicario. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't, it's really good. Check it out. It's almost like the similar situation of what's going on now, but it also does show the sketch thing that I feel like the U.S. also does, like special forces and things like that.
100% be doing some sketch shit in other countries, and definitely just be doing sketch shit here. Yes, I don't trust the U.S. military at all. Not at all. And I don't think other militaries are any different. Like,
we appreciate you for what you guys do, but
I appreciate the people. The overall shit, y'all can suck a dick. I'm talking about the individual people. Yeah. Hey, we fuck with y'all for what you're doing. But yeah, the overall of the shit. Nah, I don't fuck with the military, bro. They're on some weirdo shit too. But that's another conversation for another day. Again, I just wanted to say for all my Mexican homies, all my people in Mexico, y'all stay safe, man. Keep y'all head down. Cartels, man, if y'all can, bro. Y'all chill with that shit, bro. Like, hey, y'all, or
with the civilians,
with the civilians. Hey, the other people, police, military, they signed up for that shit. They signed up to get about it. These civilians didn't, man. They just trying to get the fuck home. They just trying to live their life. Please try to leave them the fuck up out of it, bro. But again, that's something that's way above my pay grade and way above any shit that I know. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to know, is there anything else you wanted to say to the people before we get up out of here? Anything?
We have, like he said, Homies Hotspots is going to come out. Be on the lookout for that. That's going to be really great. More information on that later. Yeah, like I said, DM me if there's anything that you guys think that you want to see on the podcast, or any way that maybe I can edit it or anything like that, or even topics you guys want, to be talked about. Let us know. But yeah, thank you for having me on this side of the camera. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah. This is all camera ready. You feel me? That's made for the camera, Phil.
You don't want to see it from the waist down. It's like business on top. From the waist down, it's just like we're in
ratchet.
Sweats, you know what I mean? But it's all good. That's the beauty
sweats
of
and Crocs. You feel me?
Croc gang. He got me. He put me on Croc gang. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming through again, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And again, if y'all haven't, man, go check out those previous episodes of the Homies Podcast, and please subscribe and tell your friends, tell your crackheads, tell all the people in your neighborhoods to go holler at the Homies Podcast. And we'll see you again next week, pimp. Peace.